What if I told you the most important health threat to your life after the age of 65 isn't heart disease or cancer, it's loneliness. And what's not being talked about is that the largest group of people in America that die from this are men over the age of 65. If you're retired and think you could just slide into this phase of life, you could be walking into the deadliest trap ever. I remember when I was 32 years old and I joined the local golf club where I lived. And every Saturday morning I'd play with my buddies, very early because we wanted to get home to hang out with the kids. But every day we'd finish golf and we'd come into the grill room where we'd have a quick drink, and there would always be this guy at the table, at the bar. And he'd be sitting there reading a book, having a glass of red wine, and enjoying his lunch. And he was there every single Saturday for years and years and years. It must have been 5 years. I never met him. I knew his name. I can't remember it now. I never said a word to him. Maybe I'd glance and say hello, but every day he was there, and I asked my buddies about him. Well, you know, he's married, he lives down the street, he's got a bunch of kids, but every Saturday he's here, he's reading his book, having a glass of wine, and having lunch. Every Saturday for years, until all of a sudden he wasn't there on a Saturday. And then another Saturday. And then another Saturday. And I said to my buddies, whatever happened to that guy that used to have lunch at the bar? Oh, you didn't hear? No, I didn't hear. Oh my God, it's such a sad story. A month ago, he was home and he was in his office, in his house. And unfortunately, he took a gun and he committed suicide. And I was like, are you serious? I had no idea that had happened. Fast forward to maybe 4 or 5 years ago, Jody and I are doing research for our business, and I find out that the largest group of people in America that commit successful suicides are men over the age of 65. I couldn't believe it. I thought maybe it was teenagers, but in fact, it is men over the age of 65. And I was heartbroken back then at 30, and now I'm heartbroken again. There are so many men that leave comments on our YouTube episodes that talk about loneliness, and all I can say is you've got to find friends, you've got to get out, you've got to find ways to work on that. So let's dig deeper into this topic. Before we do that, there's a download below that I created just for this video to help you use it as a checklist to determine, are you lonely, are you too lonely, and what you can do to snap out of that to find ways to open new relationships. So why do so many men get this wrong? Well, what happens is this. We leave our job. Maybe you've left your job. Maybe you've been in retirement for a while. And up until then, during your career, you were busy, you were engaged, you had built-in community, you had purpose, you had passion. Maybe you loved your job, maybe you didn't. But you still had habits in place to get you to work, to spend time with people that you knew and they cared about you. When you step into retirement phase, you lose those connections and people enter what we call retirement drift. And it's this unspoken word of feeling lonely, feeling unsure of yourself, feeling a little bit adrift, and not sure what your day is going to look like, what it holds for you to keep engaged and excited about life. The second reason why men get this wrong is they don't name their loneliness. They just figure, well, that's part of being life. That's part of being in retirement. That's part of being a man. I know men don't really open up that much, so I'm okay. I'm okay being by myself. I'm okay that my wife or my kids are all out doing their things. I'm fine. I'll watch a little TV. I'll figure it out. But they don't name it loneliness. Well, we're naming it today in this video loneliness. We're going a step further and calling it retirement drift. So you really, now that you have a name for it, you can understand that yes, you are at risk, and if you are lonely, you need to get help. You need to figure a way through this, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. And the third reason why men get this wrong, and I mentioned it a second ago, is that when we were in our career, we had a built-in social system. Now we don't. We might have some buddies we play golf with, we might have friends at the gym, but we don't have those close friends that we can have lunch with every day, maybe get a drink after work, have meetings, have the engagement before the meeting and after the meeting. All of that built-in social network goes away. So it is a dangerous time. And if you're feeling lonely, okay, then you are, and you need to do some things about it. Let's talk a little bit about shifting the mindset around this so you can find a way through it and out of it. So here's a new perspective. Connection and social connection isn't about being optimal in this phase of life. It's about survival. You have to have close friends that you can talk to, that you can open up to, that you can hang out with, that you can watch sporting events with, that you can go to dinner with, that you can share your struggles with. You need to find that community of people. Not because, that's what you should do. It's survival mode. It's really survival mode. You have to understand how important it is to do this. It's about survival of the fittest. You've heard that before. The other thing to think about in a mindset is reinventing yourself will open yourself up to building new relationships. But you have to put some effort into it. Jody and I were talking this morning about people kind of wait for clarity in what it is they need to do. The husband, I might say to Jody, I'm a little bit lonely today, I'm not sure what to do, but something will pop up. No, it takes action. In order to get clarity, you have to take action. You have to go to a church group. You need to join the YMCA. You need to go to the library and hang out. You need to join a gym. You need to put yourself in places where there are other men or other people that you can create relationships with. It does take some effort. It's not going to happen on its own. The third thing that men get wrong, and we need to change this thinking, is that you need to learn that your superpower is vulnerability. I've got some really good friends where we joke around and we, talk about sports a little bit. I don't talk about sports too much because I don't follow sports, but it's a very light relationship. And there's a text message once in a while, but it's light, it doesn't go deep. My best relationships are the ones that I have with men where I can actually get vulnerable and share my struggles, share what I'm worried about, share some successes, but really opening up to someone else about what I'm struggling with. Because frankly, if I'm struggling, you're struggling. If you're struggling with something and you tell me, I've got something. But we can hold each other's, we can hold each other in a safe place and have each other talk through the problem. In my book, The Evolving Man, and the link is below, the first chapter is listening. The second chapter is on vulnerability. And it really becomes a superpower, and that's how you can really build new friends. So let's talk about some things that you can do today. And don't forget, get the checklist down below in the notes, because this really will help guide you through this process. So here's the first action step that you can take to move out of this feeling of loneliness. The first one is admit you're lonely. My dad was a Marine, and he always taught me to be tough, and whenever I would cry, if I was sad, he'd always say, stop your crying, I'll give you something to cry about. He set the example for me that he can solve any problem that comes his way. And he spent a very lonely retirement because of that. He didn't rely upon friends, he relied upon alcohol a little bit too much. But you've got to make the move to go out and create friendships, because this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where a difference can really be made in your life. So the first step is admit that you're disconnected and admit that you feel lonely. That's the very first step in curing this and taking some actions to move forward. The second thing you can do, this could be fun, rebuild your weekly rhythm. If your weekly rhythm is getting up whenever you want to, having coffee, turning on the news, going to the laundromat, maybe going to the recycling center, doing some things like that, shake it up a little bit. Shake up your daily and weekly routine to bring some change into it. Like I said, listen, I'm on Marco Island, Florida. There's 4 different men's groups. I don't go to any of them because they really don't have the time. But I do go to the gym, and I've built community there, and I've met men that I now hang out with a little bit. I sign up for golf by myself, and I get hooked up with 3 other guys on the Saturday morning golf league, and I meet men that way. So put yourself in a position where you are actually out meeting people so that you can start to build relationships. The third thing you could do, and this is actually fun, I want you to think about making a list of all your old friends. High school, college, work. Just make a long list, 20 names. If you have their cell phone number, shoot them a text, give them a call. If you don't know where they are now, go on Facebook, go on LinkedIn if they were in your career. But reach out to some men intentionally from your past and say, let's get together and have lunch. Can we just chat? What have you been up to? What's going on in your life? Meet some other retirees. I mean, you could start a book club, but the first thing I want you to do is make a list of people from your past that you can reconnect with, because you've got so much in common when you think about it. I just created a new text group with 4 of my high school buddies. Our 50th high school reunion's coming up. And I connected with Beebs, Bresh, Stork, that was all our nicknames, Booty, and Terry. So the 5 of us, 6 of us are in this text group, and now we're starting to reconnect a little bit, sharing some pictures and some stories. It really feels good, and I feel connected to these guys, and I haven't seen them in 40 years, maybe 50. The other thing you can do is say yes to something. I'm sure during the day or the week or the month, people have reached out and said, hey, you want to go play golf? Hey, do you want to go to a movie? Hey, do you want to grab coffee? Start saying yes. Start saying yes to every social event that comes your way. You might feel awkward at first, and you might meet people you don't really want to hang out with, but that's okay. You're getting out, getting spruced up a little bit, you're having some joy, you're having some conversation. That really is a good step towards healing this problem of loneliness. All right, the 5th thing you can do is create a connection calendar. Now, I, every Monday morning, spend some time looking at my list of people that I call my good friends. And they go back, the list is like 40 people. They're all in my cell phone, and I try to make it a point of calling 2 or 3 of them each week on an automatic basis so that I connect with them. And we always have a great call. We always have a great text exchange, whatever it is. And it really does make a difference for, first of all, they'll appreciate the phone call. Because I'm telling you, if you're lonely, there's a really good chance there are other men in your circle, on your list, who are lonely as well. And you know what? Ask them. Or tell them, hey, I'm feeling lonely today. I need someone to talk to. What's up? Let's have a conversation. I think that's that vulnerability piece. So practice vulnerability by being truthful, naming your problem, loneliness, let your friend know about it, and have a conversation. Something good will come from that phone call for both of you. So I want you to think about doing that as well. So the 6th thing to think about with these relationships, and I touched on it a minute ago, is I want you to think about investing in the depth of the relationship, not just the activity. You know, I did a video, you can watch that one next. It's things I learned from a 90-year-old man. I went to play golf in the men's golf league on a Saturday, and I get in this cart with this older guy. He looked older, so I assumed that he was, and he didn't really want to talk. He didn't seem like he was interested in having a conversation. So we played a couple holes without talking much, and I was a little frustrated, and I thought, this can be a long 18 holes. And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to go deep. And I started asking questions about him, his life, his kids, his business, his career, the fact that his wife died 15 years ago, the fact that he's 90 years old, the fact that he used to be a golf pro in Vermont, and he's a 6 handicap, and he shot a 77 that day at the age of 90. The fact that his boys call him every morning at 5:30 to chat about the business he's still involved in. This guy is like an amazing person. Never would have known it if I didn't try to go deep. So I want you to think about someone on your list of 20 or 30 people that you have a good relationship with, but you're not deep, and ask them how they're doing. Do they ever feel lonely? What do they do to get out of loneliness? How do they keep themselves happy? How do they keep engaged? Are they volunteering? I mean, interview them as if you're trying to help them. And I think it's going to have a profound effect on your relationship with that person. It's going to be an entirely different relationship instead of just talking about the high-level stuff like family, sports, the weather. So give that a try. And then I want you to think about this one thing. I want you to promise to yourself, make this promise, I will not drift. I will not suffer to retirement drift. I will make it a point to spend the rest of my life building deeper, more meaningful relationships with as many men as I can. And you can have relationships with women too, but I think when you can get 2 men sitting around a table cracked open, listening to each other, not judging, investing in each other's health, investing in each other's happiness and sadness, being vulnerable and really sharing with each other what's going on in their lives, you will build a relationship that will last the rest of your life and give you a place to go and a person to talk to when you need it the most. So I want you to think about these 7 things today. Can you do me a favor and put in the comments below something that you're struggling with in your retirement? Because if you're struggling, someone else is struggling too. Watch this video next, 7 ways to ward off loneliness. This is particular for solo retirees, but it really works for anyone. So watch this video next.